Hi everyone, thank you for coming this morning. I'm going to be talking about the ADA and how it relates to interpreting. The ADA stands for Americans with Disabilities Act. And that goes along with interpreting. And I picked interpreting because a lot of you asked me to go talk about interpreting with the ADA. So first, I want to do a brief overview about the ADA. I want to talk a little bit about it and give some descriptions and how it goes along with interpreting. So the ADA has 5 titles, and the first 3, they go together very well, and the last 2, not so much. The first one talks about employment and about working. So a lot of private companies, they will push aside the law about it. The ADA requires that private companies have about 25 or more workers, and that was in the summer of 1992. But in the summer of 2005, it was decreased down to 15, and it said that they must have no more than 15, only 15 or less. I'm sorry, that was my mistake. I actually switched it. They're supposed to have 15 or more, no less than 15. And the law has become more strict about it. The second one has to go with public entities, which means that local and federal government kind of pushes it aside, and federal kind of does their own programs, activities, and different benefits that they have. The third title talks about public accommodations of people gathering to publicly accommodate for them. And anywhere, whether it's a private workplace or anywhere, restaurant, theater, all different kinds of places have to accommodate for that. The fourth one is about telecommunication. It basically talks about service and retail service and how they have to be set up 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They also have to not be closed for vacations, but I don't know if you guys believe me on this, but they have to stay open all year round, 365 days a year. They have to stay equal to everyone else. In order to be equal, they have to stay this way and be the same as everyone else. The fifth one talks about different places and different things within each one of these titles, which means that all the laws are for executive legislation. The legislative has to do what? Each company, the Congress has to do what? The printing newspapers have to do what? And on the fifth one, they can basically do anything, and it talks about anything. The first 3 are very specific, and they go along with interpreting. Now, I am sick of the problems with interpreting. I'm deaf, and I present a lot about the ADA, and I notice a lot of problems with interpreting who don't know anything about the ADA. They don't know the vocabulary, they don't have the skills to talk about it, and yet they come here and they interpret for me, and they change a lot of the words, a lot of the legal words, and it doesn't look like what I'm trying to say. It almost makes me look dumber than what I am. And so I'm trying to describe and trying to talk about this thing, but it's not effective communication when it comes between me and an interpreter to the other people. To have effective communication, I have to go through my presentation and just talk. But if it's not effective, then the people that I'm trying to talk to won't get the message across. And I ask them if they know the words, and they say yes, but the people clearly don't understand what I'm trying to say. And it's not effective, it's not working. And the interpreters have to depend on me, and I need to depend on them for the skills that they actually know. Do they know the ADA? Do they know the skills? Does it work perfect? And once I find that, then it's a perfect match. There's a lot of different situations where this happens. And the three first titles about the ADA is what's most important. The first one that goes along with jobs, about depending on different people for it. Now, people tend to complain about different treatment and different things about it. Most people won't talk about the skills that an interpreter needs for it. There's no decision, there's no control, there's nothing, which means that a lot of people just tend to depend on the communication or on the certification. And if they pass a certification, then everything's all right, then it's fine. Once a person is labeled an interpreter and they're classified, that shows that they are able to reasonably interpret and go together with and make sense of things. As an employer, there's so many different things that need to be the same. Like a person in a wheelchair, for example. They might have to make accommodations such as lowering a desk or trying to make accommodations for that person, such as lowering the table maybe, or all different kinds of things that would work, making things so that they are accommodated and can do their job well. But having an interpreter, they don't do those accommodations as much. Who decides that you need an interpreter? Now, that is all depending on people. Mostly bosses are the ones that decide that. But what is an interpreter exactly for? Yeah, are they used for meetings or writing or different kind of practices in businesses? Most of them, it really just depends on the situation and it depends on the person, the individual person, if they want an interpreter for a situation. It really is different. A boss who supports a person who needs an interpreter, that is very important. Because they can't always depend on another person to talk for them. Maybe some people can't afford an interpreter. They don't have enough money, so they have to put their money into spending for an interpreter. Most interpreters cost around $200 to $300, which is a lot of money, and sometimes it can be a burden for people to pay. Public accommodations. Now that's a very important piece of it. But that means a lot of different things depending on different people. An accommodation that the government made for one person in a private company could be different, and it can be confusing when it comes to the other pieces of the ADA. A lot of things may depend on the interpreter. They might depend on the different things that they have, the different styles, the skills. A person may also have to choose between two different interpreters, and one might be able to converse and discuss in one way and follow the rules, or the other one might have the certification for it but may not know. So which one do you choose? If someone wants to talk about farming and the person that they choose to interpret does not know how to talk about that, it could be awkward for them to speak when they don't know what they're talking about. And a certified interpreter may be certified, but may not be able to see the world the same way and have the same kind of interpretation for it. Many different businesses around when you look. When I fly into different businesses to talk, a lot of them will give me a certified interpreter, and I try to talk to them and ask them, where are you from? Where are you from? And a lot of them will always say, oh, I'm from Chicago, I'm from this. So my question is do you have the skills for this? Are you certified? And the person will say, yeah, of course I'm certified. I'm a certified interpreter. But that doesn't always mean that their job is going to be well done. There's different places, and interpreters need to go to different places to experience things in order to mix well with or do well with other people who they are interpreting for. A qualified interpreter has to do tests on English skills. An interpreter is someone who must be able to interpret effectively. They must be able to do it in a neutral, well way where they cannot always express their emotions, and they can give out information and also receive it at the same time while interpreting it effectively. It honestly all depends on the skills of an interpreter. If an interpreter has the skills where they can communicate and communicate with me and the person that I'm talking to, or vice versa, and can wait and understand whether their interpretation is effective, that's a good thing. Sometimes points will be taken across wrong, and sometimes it will not be the specific thing that is being said that is interpreted. A person honestly might not even support some of the things that they are interpreting for, but they have to keep neutral. They cannot have any emotions attached to any of the things. Whether it's parents who go to the doctor with their children, parents who do other things, an interpreter is not able to say anything to that person. They have to just be separate. They cannot connect to the person and into what they're discussing. It's important to use good vocabulary. And I'm sick of interpreters who have the vocabulary skills but still go away from the concept because they don't have the words that I need them. And when I try to talk to them about what words that they need to know, like as if I'm trying to talk about a science class and a deaf person has to go talk about medicine, but the interpreter comes and has no skills about anything that involves science or medicine, and they don't have the vocabulary, there's that barrier that will not get through, and therefore the deaf person will not have a correct interpretation. A lot of things also go into service. Using things for effective communication is very important. And now it's about who to decide to be the interpreter, and it depends on what you want in an interpreter. A person, an individual, is all different. By the second or third time that you have a person, you could honestly not want them anymore, and it's what you prefer to decide to have. private schools, doctors, lawyer's office, all different kinds of things, all depends on who you want in there with you. If a person is very standoffish about it and they don't want to be there, you can tell, and is a burden against you. There's different expectations. There's different expectations about interpreters. Those concepts go together with interpreting. And as an interpreter, if you need more help of how to use certain interpreters or how to follow the laws, then ask for someone's service, ask for their help.